Today, I'm going to be sharing with you all how I escaped renting in Toronto to buying my first home in Calgary alone. So I moved to Toronto straight out of high school, and for the last decade, I've been stuck in what's known as this rental rat race in that city. I didn't think much of it at the time, given I was a student. Pretty much everyone in the city rented, so it seemed pretty normal. I actually told myself that by the time I graduated, I'd be able to buy my own place in the coming years because honestly, I was sick and tired of not really knowing if I'd be living in the same spot the following year. Every single year, I'd see a rent increase, and I kept thinking in the back of my mind, like, will I ever own a place if majority or most of my paycheck is going to rent? I really hope my story resonates with some of you who are or have been in similar situation, feeling like you may never be able to afford a home. But I'm here to tell you that it's still possible, and I'll show you and tell you exactly how I did it. So if you're enjoying what you're hearing so far, all I ask is you to do me a quick favor, smash the like button, the subscribe button, or follow me on Instagram if you haven't done so already. And now, let's get right into it. All right, let's start from the beginning. So I moved to Toronto with literally $3,000 in my bank account, and I took nearly $30,000 in student loan debt. At the time, I recognized how expensive university was in Ontario compared to Manitoba, where I was raised, but something inside me said that even though it's more expensive, it'll be worth it long term. So despite having no money, I said, pretty much, why not? That also meant jumping into renting. You can even ask some of my university friends. Like, I literally lived off of things like peanut butter jelly sandwiches, bananas, and I ate pretty much the same meal because they were cheap and filling. I literally tried my best to live way below my means. Like, I understood how expensive tuition and rent was, but I kept telling myself that like I'd make it one day. When I graduated, I landed my first full-time position, making in around $40,000 a year, and at that time it felt like everything. But paying off debt, covering rent, and trying to save for a home, it felt impossible. Eventually though, I got into tech sales, and that's when I really started to feel like I was making good money. I remember my first year in tech sales making in around 90 to 100K and thinking like, holy crap, I made it. Like, I was finally saving more than a few $100 a month, and it became closer to like 1,000 per month. But even then, it felt like the odds were against me. I still had student loan debt, and saving for 20% for a standard one-bedroom condo in Toronto felt like a climbing mountain. And the thing was, it wasn't just rent itself. It was the uncertainty, the fear of being kicked out, the annual rent hikes. Like, I hated that feeling of never having control. Here's exactly how I saved money over the years. So once I started working my career job, I aimed to pay all my expenses with just one of the 2 monthly paychecks that I received. So for many years, I was spending closer to 70 to 80% of my income, but I kept trying to get it down to 50%. I wanted one paycheck to cover rent, utilities, insurance, phone, pretty much everything. Because in my mindset, that was the only way to catch up and pay off debt. So I worked relentlessly. Like, I think I counted that I had like in around 12 jobs in my life, most of them being minimum wage job. My mindset at the time was just to save money. Like, everyone I knew in Toronto seemed to have 2 or 3 jobs, so it seemed pretty normal. My second job became sort of like my fun money, like covering food, or if I wanted to hang out with friends or go out. While my 9 to 5, I kind of saw that as like for my rent. Even whenever I went grocery shopping, I would only buy things that were on sale. Like, if something was regular price, I just simply wouldn't buy it. And at one point, I even remember working like 3 jobs. I was serving or bussing tables, and I told myself that this job feeds me because I'd make tips, I get a free meal out of it. So it felt like a win-win situation. I also didn't really party, so while others were spending hundreds of dollars going out, I'd usually skip or not go at all. And from doing this, I was saving like 1,000 or just over 1,000 a month. And even at this rate, at like 12,000 a year, it felt like it still take like 8 to 9 years to catch up to 100K worth for a down payment. During the pandemic, I started learning more about money. Like I watched a ton of YouTube videos, read books, and realized working 9 to 5 sadly might not be enough to thrive in a city like Toronto. So I started doing more strategic things like investing in an index fund like the S&P 500. And that shift helped me start building wealth and was a huge part of like how I eventually afforded my first home in Calgary. So I would say after working about 3 or 4 years into my career, I was sadly laid off from my tech sales job. And honestly, I was quite devastated. Like it felt like my whole life was shattered. I was one of the only people I knew at the time who had been laid off, and it hit really hard. Like I moved to Calgary alone at the time around pandemic because I was sick of this Toronto grind, renting, the affordability crisis, and feeling like nothing would really ever change. I didn't know at the time, but I'm now so grateful that this actually did happen. Like what I thought was the worst day of my life ended up being the best. I mean, of course, I was still job hunting. I actually made it a mission to apply to like 50 jobs a day. So my mornings would look like job applications, and then in the afternoons would be filming YouTube videos. And ironically, talking to a camera, like what I am doing right now, sort of helped me build my communication skills, stop caring what other people thought. Eventually, I got that job and I slowly worked my way back to the income that I had in tech sales. I decided at the time to move back to Toronto, probably because in Calgary during the pandemic, it just felt quite isolating. I didn't have any friends there at the time. Rent in Calgary when I was there was $13.50, and I made a video about it. And when I moved back to Toronto at the time, rent was $17.50. Where I saved money was simple. Like I never bought expensive furniture because I sort of just knew I wouldn't stay there long term. I didn't even own a couch for like the longest time. Like I found a balance, spending a little bit to live decently, but always remembering what it felt like when my back was against the wall. I was getting closer and closer to one paycheck basically covering expenses and the other going straight to savings or investing, mainly, like I said before, the S&P 500. I didn't really buy flashy things, but I understood how to manage money. And finally, it felt like I had a system going. So this brings me to where I am today. I left Toronto again and bought a place out in Calgary. This is actually the first time I'm sharing this, but when I moved back to Toronto, I got into a relationship. It didn't work out. Still, I was grateful for the experience. And after it ended, I had some time to really reflect on what I wanted. And I realized that I value things like nature, space, a slower paced city, and that was more aligned with Calgary. Instead of renting, I took a serious look at my finances and realized I could finally buy a place. And after so many years thinking that I need to save up for a Toronto down payment, Calgary from my perspective seemed much more affordable and possible. So I bought my condo fully on my own with no help with the down payment. It felt very surreal, but it was also deeply satisfying. Like all the tireless work over the past decade it seemed like it was just finally paying off. And since moving back to Calgary, life has been full of surprises in a positive way. Like my YouTube channel started growing again. News outlets, strangely enough, started reaching out about my story. And I even started like a run club community here that's been a lot of fun. Buying my first place gave me stability, something that I've always just craved. There was no more worrying about like landlords or sudden rent hikes. And now I finally feel like I'm building something real out here. So there you guys have it. That's how I escaped renting in Toronto and ended up buying a place in Calgary. I know this video is a bit more of my personal and more vulnerable side than usual, and I often don't share this side of my story, but I truly believe that opening up about the struggles that I've experienced and how I got through them might inspire some of you who are in a similar place. It means so much to me when someone reaches out and tell me that a video of mine has helped them make a positive change, whether that's switching careers or deciding to move cities. And hearing that something I shared had such a positive impact really warmed my heart. And I'm genuinely grateful if this video helped even one person make a change. So anyhow, if you enjoyed this video, I really appreciate if you guys could leave me a comment, hit the subscribe button, or follow me on Instagram if you haven't done so already. I'm thinking of getting back into vlogging, making more casual videos and showing you more of Calgary. I know you're probably tired of seeing my face talking to a camera, and maybe you actually want to see the city of Calgary and what it has to offer. This city has honestly changed so much over the last recent year, and I'm excited to share that all with you. So thank you all for watching, and I guess I'll see you all in the next one.